Hello, and welcome to the final bonus task for the if statements. What we're going to be building out today is we are going to be building out a portal with a keystone. So I'll walk you through the project first, and then I will break down how to put this together. So we're just going to play this. Now, this is really good when you're building out environments, and particularly sort of maze games, because what you can do is you can have a few of these to get to the next level. So what we have here is we have a portal. When you interact with it, when you want to get through it, it flashes and it changes color. So you can't get through this now. But if I press on this keystone here, keystone changes color to let us know it's activated. And I go back here and I can now walk through this. So this is a really good way of sort of segmenting your games into different levels, environments. Let's say, for example, you've got like 2 or 3 of these hidden around a maze. You have to press each one of these to get through one of the doors, and then you can either win the game or get to the next level. That is why these are so good. And we're going to be using if statements to connect everything together. So how do you build this out? So let's go over to my example one here. And let's go there. Right. So what we are going to need is, the first thing is you will need a part that you have shaped into a portal. Okay. So color it how you want, and then sort of take it from there. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create another part. And this is going to act as our keystone here. So make sure it's anchored. That's going to be really, really important. And what we're then going to do here is let's change the color. Now, there's a few other things that we need to set up here before we get into the coding. First one we're going to do with the portal itself, because this is going to be quite important. And what we're going to do is not adding the script just yet. We are going to click on the plus icon and we want a proximity prompt. Now, this is what's going to allow us to interact with it. So click on that and pop in the proximity prompt there, okay? Because we're going to be listening for this when the player interacts with this to trigger this code. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to go to our keystone. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is rename it, because we need to bring this in. So I'm just going to call this testing keystone students. Call yours anything that you want. Call yours keystone if you want. I've just got a few keystones in this sort of lab bit, so that's why I need to make my name quite distinct. So testing keystone student. Okay. Now, what we now need to do before we add anything else is we need to go right down the click on the part there, click on the keystone part, go right down to the bottom where you see attributes here. And what I'd like you to do is right at the on the right hand side you'll see a plus icon. Click on that please and see what comes up. What we're doing here is we're going to add an attribute. We essentially need to add a new property into this keystone. And what this keystone is going to, what this is going to do is, we want this to be like a switch. So the portal will only open if the switch is set to true, and it's going to stay closed if this is set to false. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, let's rename this. Let's create the name, which is going to be activated. Activated. Okay. Please make sure if you use capital, please remember how you spelled this, because we're going to be referencing this in the code. So if you use a capital letter, make sure you use a capital letter later. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We do not want a string. We want a Boolean, which is the true or false thing. And then we're going to save that. And now, as you can see, we have the title is activated and we have the switch here, the true or false, the tick. We want to leave that as off for now, because when we step on the keystone, that's when we're going to activate this. Now, what we can do now is we can start building out our code. So let's start in the keystone first, because that's the easier one. So click on script, and then let us add our keystone, well, our keystone information. So what we're going to do here is we need to get some local information. So we need to bring in all the properties about our testing keystone student into a variable. So local, and I'm just going to call this one keystone because it's in the local file, equals script.parent, like that. Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to build out a function. So I'm going to build out a local function, and I'm just going to call this one onTouch, because that's what's going to happen here. It's going to activate when it's touched. Now, next thing is, before we forget, let's connect it all together. So we've got keystone.touched, connect, and then onTouch. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to have, this is exactly the same as what we've just done in our previous projects. We're just going to check if it's humanoid. So you've done this like 2 times before, and this is the 3rd time we're doing this. So we want to say other part, like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check if it's humanoid. So we need to make it a character variable. Character. And then we're going to say equals other part dot parent, like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say make another variable for humanoid equals then we want to say character, and then we want that long function here. So find first child, which is and then we say humanoid. There we go. Right, now next thing that we need to do is we just need to check if there's anything inside humanoid. So we want to say if humanoid, then we want to do something. Okay. Now, what we essentially want to do here is we want to set this variable. So there's a function that we can use here. So if there's a humanoid, we want to say keystone, because that's where the information is. Then we want a function, and we want to say, Lou's really helping us out here. We want to say set attribute. Now, what the set attribute does is there's 2 things that need to go inside these parentheses, 2 arguments. The first thing is the name or the title of the attribute. Now, we named it activated. So first thing is we need to do speech marks, and there we go. It's helping us out. We want to say activated. If you're typing this out yourself, please double check that if you've got a capital A, it's capital A, because it is exactly the same as it is down here. And then because there's 2 things going in here, after the speech marks, we then need to do a comma. And then what we need to do is we just want to say what this value would be. So this thing on the right-hand side. Now, right now it is false because it is not ticked. So we want to set that to true, like that. And now the final thing that we want to do here is we just want to change the color just so the player knows that something has happened. So we want to say keystone dot color equals color3 dot from RGB, and it's a red, so let's change this to a green, like that. Okay. Right, now before we do anything else, let's test this just to see if this works. And if that is working, that should change to green, and I'm running that, so I've just been daft. So let us play here. Okay, there we go. There we go. Right, that is now working, so that is now activating. Brilliant. Now let's go over and let's build out the portal code. So the portal code is going to be a bit bigger, but there's a few things that we need to pop in here first. So let's go into the script. Now, so far, we have only activated our functions when we have touched them, but there's a few other ways that we can activate our functions. Now, what we want to do here is we want to listen for this, the proximity prompt service. So what this essentially means is whenever a proximity prompt is activated, the game listens for it. So what we're going to say here is we want to create a variable, say local, and then we're just going to call it this because that is what we're sort of listening for. So proximity, and a terrible speller, so prompt service. Bro. And then what we want to do is we want to, this is at the highest level of the game. So we want to say game, and then we want to connect it to a function. So, and we want to say get service here, like that. Because what we're doing here is we're listening for this service. We're listening for the proximity prompt service. So what we want to put in here is proximity prompt service, this one. Okay. Now, what we're now going to do is we are going to, before we do anything else, we're just going to create a function and connect everything together just so we have that done. So let us create a function. So local and local function, and we're going to call this one portal open, like that. And now what we want to do is we want to trigger this, not when it's touched, but when the proximity prompt service is activated. So it works in the same way. So we want to say what we are listening for first. So proximity prompt service, which is the name of our variable here. And then we want to say dot, and then we want to say not touched, we want to say prompt triggered here. And Lou is really helping us out. So what prompt triggered does is whenever somebody presses a proximity prompt service, this will then trigger for us. And then we want to just do the same thing. So connect and then our portal open. Okay. Now, there's a few other things that we need to do before we start building out this code. Now, the first one that we're going to do is we need to get our keystone information in here as well. So let's say local, I want to call this keystone equals workspace, and then I called my testing keystone student. So dot testing keystone student there, like that. Okay. Now, I forgot the parameter there, so I'll just put in other part. Bro. Now, first thing we're going to do inside here is we are just going to check if this is a humanoid, because we only want this to open for humanoids essentially. So same thing that we've done a few times now. Pause the video here to see if you can sort of figure out how to check if it's a humanoid. It's exactly the same. So please feel free to reference the other code that you've done first. So we're going to say local character equals other parts dot parents, and then local humanoid equals character, and then stick a function on this with the colon, then find first child, which is and then we're looking for humanoid. Okay. And then we just want to see if there's anything inside humanoid here. So if humanoid, then do something. Now, there's a few things that we want to do in here. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to check if our keystone has this activated. And how we do that is there's a function for this. In our keystone, we had a function for set attribute. Well, there's another one really similar called get attribute. So what we want to do here is we want to say, we want to create a variable. So we want to say local, and we're going to say activated equals keystone get attribute here. and then you can probably figure out what's going to happen in here. We just want to put in the name of the attribute that we want. So it's the activated attribute. We don't need the second one here because we're just getting the information. We're not setting the information. So let's say activated. Now, what this will do is this will then put inside this variable whatever the value is. So if it's false, it'll be false. If it's true, it'll be true. Okay. And now what we need to do is we need to do another if statement, because we're going to now be checking what this is. So we've checked if it's human, and now we can do another if statement. So we want to say if activated. Now, there's always going to be something inside activated. So remember when we first learned if statements and we were comparing two things? Well, this is now what we're going to do here. So we want to say if activated equals true. Then we want to do something, okay? And what we want to do is we want to turn the portal. Oh, right. I'm so sorry. I've forgotten to do that, actually. I've got the keystone variable, but I don't have the portal variable. So I want to say local portal equals script.parent, okay? Because we're going to be changing the transparency for this now. So we want to say if activated equals true, then we want to say portal dot transparency equals 0.5, because we still want to see it a little bit. And yeah, I think that's everything. Now, if the keystone has not been activated, then we want to do something else. We want to change the color and then change it back to its sort of default color. Now, with if statements, there's a way that you can do this. So we want to say else here. So else. Now, what's going to happen here is, and how this works, else statements always work with if statements. So if this is true, then do this. If it is not true, then do something else. So far, we've only needed the if statement on its own. But now what we're doing is we need to say, like, if one of two things would happen here. So let's change the portal's color. So portal.color equals color3 dot from RGB, and let's change this to a red. Brill. Let's wait 2 seconds, and then let's change the color back to its original color. So let us have a look. We've got the portal here. We've got the color here. So I'm going to grab that, and then we're just going to do the same thing. So portal. Oh. Portal.color equals color3 dot from RGB, and then paste those numbers in there, and that will then give us the same color. Okay. Now let us test this out. So I'm gonna play here. Now I'm gonna test the portal on its own first, then I'm gonna run on the keystone. So that's good. Right. Right. Okay. That's why. Because we've not clicked on this yet. Right. So sorry, I've been daft here. The reason why this is happening is the humanoid bit. So let's take away the humanoid bit. Why is that not going? There. Sorry, these things happen. Right, let us now run this again. And does my Wi-Fi given out? Looks like it almost has. Come on. Moment of truth. There we go. Right. Okay. So let's test this now. There, right. That one's working. And then let's see if this works. There, perfect.